Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A man in his late 70s has died after rolling his heavily laden semi-trailer on the state's east coast this morning. Police are not ruling out speed as a factor in the crash, which happened on the Tasman highway near Chain of Lagoons.
On a windy stretch of the Tasman highway, a crane had to be called in to lift the giant semi-trailer, which had tipped and rolled at Piccaninny Point, around 20 minutes north of Bicheno.
The wet weather didn't play a factor in it, but speed may have been a factor.
The crash killed the 71-year-old driver from Devonport, the only occupant of the vehicle. Police say he was driving north to deliver parts for a bridge being built near St Helens and knew the road well.
It was a slight downhill, but it had a negative camber. Because it was heavily laden, it had a high centre of gravity, and there's not much margin for error, if you can appreciate, if it goes around a corner too fast or turns sharply.
The clean-up caused extensive delays. Police are hoping to speak to one driver who they believe had seen the truck just before the crash.
There was a white vehicle travelling in a southerly direction at the time, so police are keen to speak to that person.
The fatality brings the state's road toll to 7 compared with 12 this time last year. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The trial of a Campbelltown man charged over the 2017 armed robbery of the Mowbray ANZ Bank has begun in the Launceston Supreme Court. The 31-year-old has pleaded not guilty.
The accused, Marcus Dennis Main, sat in the dock as the jury listened to the opening statements for what's expected to be a 3-day trial. Defence lawyer Evan Hughes telling the court there's no disputing the fact that on September 22nd, 2017, the Mowbray ANZ Bank was robbed. What is in dispute is the identity of the perpetrator. The first witness to give evidence via video link was Joanne Lynn Young. Just before 2 p.m. that day, she had entered the Mowbray ANZ Bank to deposit rent money. The jury was also shown several CCTV clips of her doing so and a man wearing a black beanie entering the bank shortly after. He approached the counter and from behind held a knife to her right side. Ms Young broke down while recounting the moment, saying the man had then said, "This is a hold-up, this is a stick-up, I want all the money in the bag or she gets it." The money was then popped into the bag and handed to the man by the bank teller. He promptly left, the ordeal over in under 2 minutes. The jury heard from several more witnesses this afternoon, including St Vincent de Paul worker Peter Freak. Mr Freak confirmed he had assisted the accused at the Mowbray charity store on the morning of September 22nd. CCTV of the accused meeting with 2 St Vincent de Paul employees who handed him a black beanie, a black pair of gloves and a pair of track pants like the ones worn by the perpetrator was also shown to the jury. The trial continues. Jessie Gilmore, 7 Tasmania News.
This year's first case of meningococcal disease has been detected. A Huon Valley man in his late 60s is recovering in the Royal Hobart Hospital. Public Health says he has the W strain of the disease, which is covered by the government subsidised vaccinations. Authorities say he had spent time interstate, so it's possible the disease wasn't contracted in Tasmania. A tribunal of experts has met to consider whether Tasmanian war hero Edward Teddy Sheehan should be awarded the nation's highest military honour. The appeal is part of a decades-long campaign to see the World War II Ordinary Seaman recognised with a Victoria Cross. The 18-year-old was born at Lower Barrington and killed on the HMAS Armidale in 1942, choosing to stay on board the sinking ship while continuing to fire at Japanese planes. Today, those for the decision began to argue their case in Hobart.
We are today dealing with a matter that occurred over 3/4 of a century ago. We will attempt to deal with it in a very objective way.
The hearings will continue tomorrow. Parts of Tasmania are still under a severe weather warning with an intense cold front and deep low pressure system generating strong winds. A yacht broke its moorings and ended up stranded at Sandy Bay. Winds of more than 100 kilometres an hour were reported at Strawn, Low Head and Mount Wellington.
We've seen a cold front across the state last night, and behind that we are seeing a low pressure system passing to the south of the state. That's bringing a very tight pressure gradient over the state. Last night's cold front brought thunderstorms pretty much statewide.
More than 70,000 lightning strikes were recorded. Conditions are expected to ease tomorrow. The Nationals Party is preparing to ramp up its political campaign ahead of the federal election, taking advantage of its relatively recent foothold in Tasmania. The party revealing its candidate for the regional seat of LYONS today, creating more competition for its coalition partner.
Federal politicians of all sides pouring into Tasmania, all hoping to stake their claim ahead of May's election. The Nationals today announcing DEANNA Hutchinson as LYONS candidate.
I'm really excited to be able to have a look at how the population conversation is going to unfold in LYONS, and it is a regional area. That conversation is emerging to be a conversation about the role that our regions play.
The typically regional party ramping up its campaign, building momentum after their first Tasmanian member joined last year.
Now we have a foothold, and we certainly want to strengthen that and take advantage of the people's wishes, that they need their voice in rural and regional Australia, Tasmania, heard in Canberra.
This is a regional seat, make no mistake about it. There's no big major centres in LYONS. This is really a traditional National Party seat, rural, agriculturally based. That's our heartland.
Leaving the Liberal Party to defend its election chances in the state, with coalition partner the Nationals added competition, threatening to dilute Liberal support.
Don't be mistaken. The Liberals and Nationals are upfront about our policies. We work well together, and we'll be doing that right up to the day of the election and hopefully beyond as well.
Labor currently holds 4 of 5 Tasmanian seats. Party stalwart Penny Wong in Launceston confident incumbent Brian Mitchell can keep his job.
I think he's a very hard worker and a good bloke. We think it's important to work with Tasmanians to tackle some of the problems that of inequality.
All attempting to win over voters before heading to the polls. Michelle WISBEY, 7 Tasmania News.
65 Tasmanian farms will now benefit from improved water security with the launch of the North Esk irrigation scheme. The multi-million-dollar project includes a new dam, pump stations and pipelines. It's hoped the infrastructure will help farmers diversify what they produce.
This area's been probably sheep, wheat, barley, oats or cropping. To diversify, they can, it's got the chance to go into grapes or berry fruits and that type of thing now, because they're the things that want water.
Farms around White Hills, Nile, Relbia and Evandale will benefit from the scheme. Scientists have set off dozens of small bombs in Antarctica in a mission to learn more about glaciers and climate change. They've made discoveries about what lies beneath by listening to the echoes bounce back from the explosions.
The Aurora Australis arriving back in Tasmania today, marking the end of what Australian researchers consider a successful summer season.
We've had a really successful summer season with over 160 days of ship time at sea. We've moved over 550 people to and from Antarctica.
One of the projects involving the 30-kilometre wide Totten Glacier. Scientists trying to find out what's driving the speed of this important ice flow.
The Totten Glacier drains an area of East Antarctica that contains about 7 metres of sea level rise equivalent of ice. So if I took all the ice contained in the catchment, spread it out over the global oceans, sea levels would go up by 7 metres.
A key question, what's underneath it? In an extreme sonar setup, they placed 25 small bombs. The sound of the explosions bouncing back to microphones, generating a picture of what's below the glacier. In a concern, they found water.
The implications of that are on how it controls the speed of the glacier. And so if it's bedrock underneath the ice, the glacier's going to want to stick and it'll flow a bit slower. And if there's water there or soft sediments, it's going to want to flow a lot faster.
As researchers prepare for future seasons, the next step is to sample the water, drilling down 2 kilometres through the ice. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
An expert in plastic pollution solutions has met with Tasmanian schoolchildren today in the hope of inspiring more students to work towards reducing our plastic footprint. Anthony Hill has spent the last 6 years travelling around Australia running events and workshops. On Thursday night, he will host plastic-free Launceston's special screening of Blue the film, which features Dr. Jen Lavers, a world-renowned research scientist who now lives in Launceston. The public is also invited to attend the Launceston Grammar Mowbray screening.
Not even a mass exodus of players has dented North Launceston's enthusiasm for the TSL season. Playing coach Taylor Whitford believes a fresh pool of talent will give the Bombers a shot at another flag. Red and black streamers have flown from the TSL Cup in 4 of the past 5 seasons, but the bulletproof brigade of talent has split, with experienced heads like Tom Bennett and Zach Burt departing. But Taylor Whitford sees opportunity.
Our Mercury Cup side, or Development League, made the grand final last year, so it's given opportunity for the 16 to 20-year-olds to press their case to play senior footy at our footy club.
The club's first test is this weekend against Kingborough, tipped by some to be a big improver. Whitford won't set a pass mark until he's seen what's out there.
Being up in Launceston, away from the Hobart bubble as well, we're a little bit unsure as to what other sides are doing, so after we play everyone each, I'll let you know.
And Tasmanian Tigers coach Adam Griffith is returning to the national level, awarded an assistant coaching role for the Aussie World Cup side heading to the UK.
That's always the hardest thing when you come into a squad as such for a short period of time, is you don't want to come in and try and reinvent the wheel. You just got to give them as much support as you can, and every now and again, if you see little things along the way, just to bring up in conversation.
After the Sheffield Shield season ended in disappointing fashion, Griffith is still committed to building the stateside.
At the moment, I'm really happy here in Tasmania, and we've got a lot of work still to do with the program, and I'll focus on that and then see what happens down the track.
Good evening. Saying it was a bad hair day today was probably an understatement as the winds blew through with a cold front. Temperatures up to 10 degrees below average, with all the main population centres reaching 15. Flinders Island and Friendly Beaches the top today with 17 degrees. Strongest wind gust was 159 kilometres an hour at Matsyker Island. Highest rainfall today from 9 a.m. was 15 millimetres at Darwin Dam at the southern end of Lake Burbury, after 43 millimetres fell at Fisher River in the previous 24 hours. And as you can see, all the temperatures there below par. Lyowini a top of just 5. Now here's the fast moving convective cloud over the state, producing the widespread showers and of course the overnight thunderstorms. It connects to a deep low to our south, which is a bit easier to see on the wider map. Another band of cloud links the Northern Territory to New Zealand, a large area of cloud associated with TC Veronica over the central West Australian coast. Tomorrow a weak trough will be near our northeast, a cold front off the east coast of the mainland. A high moves over the bight south of the cyclonic activity further north. West to southwest winds at 30 to 40 knots, reaching 45 knots over the south, gradually easing during the day. Swells though up to 8 and 9 metres in western and southern waters. Now the severe weather warning continues for all except the central north and north coast. A gale warning for all coastal waters and a small craft wind alert for the lakes. We also have a bushwalkers alert and a warning to the state's sheep graziers. Forecast for tomorrow: Hobart, showers clearing, the winds easing gradually, 15 the top. Adventure Bay, showers easing, a very windy day and 15 degrees. Tarraleah, a top of just 10. For Launceston, a possible shower at 18, 17 with showers clearing from Devonport, 18 for Bridport, still a bit of wind blowing over there. Showers easing and a windy day for Burnie, 17 the top, 15 for Strawn and Marrawar with showery conditions in the west, 18 the top for St Helens. The winds easing, bit of cloud about, 17 for Swansea, Whitemark, 18 degrees. The UV has retreated to a moderate 5. On Wednesday, mostly fine and sunny, partly cloudy over the west with the chance of a shower. Fine on Thursday until a shower develops over the north, west and far south. And on Friday, showers across the state, more likely over the west and far south. A sunny 32 in Perth tomorrow, partly cloudy and cooler weather for Adelaide and Melbourne. Sunny for Sydney and Canberra. A late shower though, and 32 for Brisbane. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment, and temperatures a far cry from this time last week. We all hate the windy weather, Joe, particularly my wife Donna. Too many leaves to rake up the next day.
Poor Donna. Thanks very much, Merv. That's all from the news team for now. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you a little later. Bye-bye.